The world lies before me. Beautiful and terrible things await me. I'm ready for it. The pain I have been through will be useful to me. From now on, I will only have good days or great days. My name is Sydney. I am a fighter. I am a survivor.
As a younger child, Sydney was overly willing to get filthy. She loved being outdoors, playing hard, coming in desperately in the need for a shower, and fighting it off for as long as she could. She had her own sense of style, and her manner of dressing was entirely Sydney. She loved tutus and cowboy boots and usually wore them together.
I didn't think it was fair. I didn't think it could happen. I just didn't know what to do.
I believe the first thing that we noticed was she was complaining about ankle pain, which she was a volleyball player, so it was something that we just assumed was probably natural, plus she's a teen girl or preteen getting ready to grow. So it wasn't anything severe that really alarmed us. Next thing was probably the fatigue.
Yes.
Where we noticed that she would take naps, which is unusual. Summertime, staying up late. Again, didn't really think much of anything of it.
I think the initial true, something is going on was Friday night when she had her volleyball tryouts, and during the summer she'd done very well. Her coaches at that club had told her that, she'd at least make the third best team out of 5, but that night, we followed her along through the 9, stations, and she wasn't able to keep up. Lost her breath, lost her energy, would look over at us like, what's going on? And we were like, we don't know. And she was upset that night because she knew she didn't get as high as a position as she would have liked.
The big red flag was because he checked her lymph nodes and she looked up and they were just bulging out from underneath her chin. And I was like, no, we got to get her in for a blood work. I think she's got mono. And that's completely what I thought it was, mono. So he took her in the next day to get the lab drawn.
And the very next morning, about 8 or 8:30, I got a phone call from the pathologist from this company telling me what her numbers were, and we were discussing on the phone what the possibilities could be, and the 3 choices he gave me were not good. All 3 were cancer. So, I had told Kathy, and we pulled the other 2 kids in the room. We told the other 2 children, and it was the first time they'd openly see me cry, so they knew something was wrong.
I asked what leukemia was, what it does with the body, how to treat it. I think I asked the mortality rate or something like that.
And then she started losing her hair, and I was like, oh, this is actually happening. This isn't just a joke.
Explode. Touch. Game. Timer.
Ready?
2, 5, 25. Sets quarter. Change. Back. Lower. Quarterback.
Woo!
I remember the fellow, Dr. Alex, coming in and asking if he was around. And I said, no, he's at work, and she wanted to talk to us when he came in, and I immediately knew something was wrong. And so I waited about 10 minutes and couldn't take it, and I found her, and I said, I need to know now. So we went to a room, and I still picture that room, and I hate that room, and I remember walking by that room later on and just wanting to throw up. That's where they said that her cytogenetics came back and said she was not going to respond long-term to chemo, that she was going to need a bone marrow transplant, and immediately went into worst-case scenario.
There are a couple of things that cause us to think about bone marrow transplant for a patient who's newly diagnosed, and one of the most common of those is something called hypodiploid. That means that the number of chromosomes within their leukemia cells tumor cells take on their own genetic structure, are very low. And we know statistically those kids will do very poorly with traditional chemotherapy. So that group of patients, which is small, probably just a few a year, are best treated by bone marrow transplantation.
They very quickly, as soon as they knew that she was going on the course for bone marrow, very quickly went ahead and had us all go in and be tested. They knew that it was very unlikely either one of us would be a match, and each of the siblings had a 20 to 25% match.
Normally, if we're going to actually use the marrow from a patient, we harvest it from their hip, and the donor goes to the operating room, they're put to sleep. We make about 5 or 10 holes on each side of the back side of the hip, and we harvest with a syringe these cells out of the actual bone marrow.
They put me under with anesthesia, I think, and then like an IV in my hand. And then I got really loopy and I had to count down from 10, and I remember I got to 8, and then I fell asleep. And then I guess while I was asleep, they stuck, I think it was 3 holes that were maybe 1/4 of an inch thick into my pelvis. They extracted bone marrow.
She had very abbreviated chemotherapy compared to most kids with ALL, but then she had to undergo the very aggressive bone marrow transplant with those really strong drugs over the course of a few days.
The worst part was isolation. Being away from all my friends and family, because the only people I could really be with were the people who lived in my house, my immediate family. The only way I could talk to people was texting, Skyping, social media, and Facebook. That's social media. There's like no way to actually be with them, and I kind of decided like watch everyone be together, and I couldn't be with them. So
One of the blessings I will say when this happens to your family is you find out truly that there are some amazing people in this world. So we knew she was going to miss Halloween. She was being admitted 3 or 4 days. Yeah, she would be admitted, and we knew she was at least a 4 to 6 week bite off in the hospital. So there would be no Halloween, probably no Thanksgiving. And so we had a good friend, a volleyball mom that lives in a neighborhood close. So she asked the neighborhood, would y'all mind? And so she had her own private Halloween. So they all actually went out. Some people that weren't even going to decorated their houses. I mean, so she went trick-or-treating by herself. Well, not by herself. She went with her friend and her little sister. But that's one of those nights you just can't ever forget. The greatness of people.
She would, be, comfortable. She'd have a couple girlfriends come and, sit with her occasionally, and we got some, decent photos of them having fun, because to her it was just part of her life. And at least twice a week, when she wasn't in isolation, we tried to bring them up to the hospital, and so they could, hang out, play games. They knew they had to step up. They knew they had to become better friends, and be there for one another.
She and I weren't close before all this happened, but once she got sick and once she was able to come back home, like, she had like no immune system at all. Her 3 biggest choices were watch TV all day, read, or play games. And since I play a lot of video games, she asked me to teach her. And so since then we've been playing all kinds of games. So we've gotten pretty close over the years.
we got a lot closer. At first, we talked. It's kind of like the regular relationship with your brother and sister. We always fight and tattletale. But now, my sister drives me to school. We talk all the time. Me and my brother play video games all the time. Whenever he comes home from college, we just got a lot closer than from what we were before.
She's my little sister.
For a solid year, she kept using the card, I saved your life, go get me a soda,
Yes!
stuff like that.
I still do that today. She's always like, have you gotten me my birthday present yet? I'm like, I gave you life. I don't owe you anything. It's great. It's a good card to hold. I don't have to do anything.
She makes me get her things. If I'm just sitting down and she's on the couch, on the chair, she'll be like, go give me a soda. And I'm like, no. And she's like, I saved your life. And then I'm like, I have to go get her a soda. I mean, there's nothing really that I could do except sometimes I'll throw back at her, well, I had cancer, and then she'll be like, well, I saved your life. So then, yeah, some people think it's kind of sick that we use those as jokes, but you gotta think of it as a good way and joke about it. So.
I'll drink your soda.
No. Okay, go ahead.
You or me? Stop.
No, Alex, she's finished my drink. Picking me a new one.
You have legs. Sorry.
I've had high blood pressure because my kidneys are not as functional. I have to get shots every night for human growth hormone because I do not produce my own growth hormone, so I need medicine to do it for me. I don't produce my own estrogen, so I take another medicine for that.
If she is to have a child of her own, it will have to be through her sister. That one makes me bitter. Because, you know, these kids have been through so much that you can't even... That is the hardest thing for me to get past. I am angry about that. That's just so not fair. Not that any of it's fair, but good Lord, really, when does it stop?
All right, I'm ready. All right, look at me real quick, Sid. Good job.
Well, at this point, she's looking really good. She's 3 years out. It isn't like the typical where you make it to 5 years and you can take a deep sigh of relief and know everything's behind you statistically. It's not the case by any means. But the intensity of her follow-up visits should lighten up significantly as time goes on. And, you know, if something rears its ugly head, it'll definitely not be good news for her, but it'll just be a statistical anomaly that sadly she's more apt to get certain things than other children that have not gone through what she's gone through. But
anyone that's been through a bone marrow transplantation or stem cell transplantation has had a lot of really aggressive chemotherapy. And so our job now is to maintain her health, not only, of course, to keep her leukemia from coming back, and she looks like we're hopefully out of the woods with that, because that's the #1 concern, but also to make sure that her organs remain healthy. So the kids that have undergone stem cell transplant have really intensive monitoring for years to follow.
Since cancer, I've developed a hobby I like talking about it. That's not really like a hobby, but if people ask me about it, they're usually nervous, and I'm like, don't be nervous, like, ask me anything, like, I'll answer it, because I don't look at it as a negative. I think of it as a good thing because it brought me so many good things, even though it wasn't a good thing. So that's kind of a hobby, I guess. I love talking about it. I love telling people. I love creating awareness.
What good things has it brought you?
My friends from camp brought me and my family a lot closer. It brought more awareness. This isn't really for me, but it brought more awareness to childhood cancer because I worked with the Acute Lymphoblastic Society with commercials,
That was
with
Gold Coast.
with blood. What's it called?
Gulf
Coast
Coast.
Blood
Bank.
Bank. Yeah, I worked with a commercial for that, and I've helped people raise money with Leukemia Lymphoma Society. So we brought in a lot of awareness for leukemia and lymphoma, and cancers and childhood cancers and everything like that. So.
She's always been very positive and very energetic about this whole path. And I think quite frequently what we see is it's terrifying for the parents. It's scary for the kids. But pretty soon the kids make friends along the way, and those friends become a huge part of their support. And amazingly, most of the kids remain incredibly energetic and positive on the outside. I know on the inside, they're scared and they're fearful and they're worried, and they have no doubt lost friends along the way. I'm sure Sydney has. But she's just one energetic and quite happy young woman.
If I had to describe Sydney in one word, there's so many, to be honest, that would come to mind, but the most suitable would be quirky. Some of the ways Sydney is quirky can be just her body language, some of the things that she says. During tournaments, she always finds a way to make everyone laugh. Whether she's trying or not, I'm not really sure. But it works, and to be honest, it's a good quality, and I appreciate it very much as a coach.
The school was always very supportive of her. When she was healthy enough to go, the volleyball team did an orange out for her. And even the other school was kind enough to participate, where they wore either orange socks or orange bandanas, and so she was pretty much the special attendee that evening. So it was a good night. Super skinny, very bald, but yeah, it was good.
I didn't wear wigs. I wore bandanas because I didn't want to show my bald head, but I didn't want to fake that I had hair. I didn't want to act like I had hair when I didn't.
And even with the bandanas, that was short-lived. She reached a point where even with the bandanas, she wouldn't wear that either, which for me was huge. I just was incredibly blown away that that's an age where you worry about everything. You feel like everybody's looking at you as it is, but for her to be able to go out without any hair on her head and be okay with it, that impressed me incredibly.
Because my hair is really straight before, and it came back, and once it was actually there, not just stubble, it was super soft. So everyone would come up and they'd be like, ah. And
very very, very curly.
I was actually afraid I was going to grow an afro. Jeez.
The huge majority of our children with cancer, leukemia, any type of cancer, that survive their cancers, those are the kids that go on and do remarkable things with their lives because they've kind of been there, done that. They don't mess with drugs. They don't mess with alcohol. They're very directed. They're very focused. And to a person, those kids are just exceptional young adults. So it's great to watch them grow up and have their own families and do unbelievably remarkable things, just like I'm sure Sydney will do remarkable things with her life.
I want to grow up and become a pediatric oncologist specializing in bone marrow transplant. I'm actually taking a lot of classes in high school now, learning about medical stuff. I'm in medical terminology next year. I'm taking principles of health science, and I'm taking practicum of health science, and senior year I'm taking anatomy and physiology and another health science class. But in junior and senior year you get to go up to the hospital and you get to take care of people and mostly do stuff like clean bedpans or something, but you get to get the gist about what it's like working in a hospital, so I'm really excited for that.
We as a family have defeated cancer. Not only has Sydney taken her life back, but we are all closer. Our bonds are stronger than they would have been otherwise. Cancer gave us the gift of this perspective. The skies are bluer and the grass is greener. So long as we wake up each morning, we have everything we need.
I'm gonna try and not hit a car, because
Oh my God.
we're never this close to these cars.
And you had no reason to be that close. Oh my God, I'm so tense.